Okay, so once again, we're back for some more Q&A goodness. I've really been looking forward to this. I may end up having to cut it a little shorter than I would like to, though. A little bit of something came up during the time that I had to put this video together. It shouldn't affect anything, but if this video is a little shorter than the last one, that's the reason why. I just want to let you guys know. First of all, actually, I wanted to take a step back, and rather than just straight up answer questions this time, at least at the start of the video, I wanted to go back and respond to some of the comments responding to some of the answers I gave in the previous Q&A videos. Not like debunk them or anything, just acknowledge them and talk about them as part of the greater conversation sparked by those questions and the answers that I gave to them. I have a couple of them picked out. I really need to learn to enunciate. I really love, first of all, how many of you guys were sending me good wishes about my dog. In that one, a real quick update on that, I guess, just because some of you guys might not have seen the other message I left. He's fine. We've still got him on antibiotics just to make sure whatever weird infection-y thing was affecting him is gone. But it did, in fact, turn out to be an allergic reaction. We can't figure out what it was an allergic reaction to. It was super strong. We can't find out what it was. We can't figure out what it's an allergic reaction to. But he hasn't reacted to it again, whatever it was. So our vet's pretty convinced that it was just like a rare environmental thing that's passed. I need to keep watching him, obviously, but he's fine now. It's so weird. It came on so fast and affected him so much, and now it's just gone. But yeah, he's fine. Thank you guys for those well wishes. I also see a lot of people reacting to the fact that I had to read I had to read a swear in the previous Q&A. So that was pretty funny. You guys reacted to that in pretty funny ways. I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah, but anyway, Noah Madrigal, in response to an answer that I gave about a question regarding Lion and Lars eating, says that gems don't have to eat, but they still can and can want to, as shown. Which, yeah, the show has shown that pretty definitively. So it definitely wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that Lion and Lars could still want to eat. And I agree with that completely. Except that I don't know that Lion actually wants anything. He is still just a lion, and wanting something would suggest that he has the capacity to form, like, conscious desires, which would imply that he is conscious. Like, I know he's super smart, but he still behaves enough like a big cat that I don't think he's, like, sapient or anything. So I don't think he actually has true wants. I do think, though, that he is compelled by whatever lingers of his old cat instincts before he became zombie cat. I think that enough of that still exists to compel him to eat things even if he doesn't have to. And that, like gems, he still can eat things because he still has the parts to do so. Like, yeah, I'm seeing a couple more comments where people were basically agreeing with that. Here's an interesting one. Night Owl says that maybe the gem lizard was an ancestor of one of Rose's alien pets. I think you mean descendant, but other than that, yeah, I think that's definitely possible. That's definitely the most likely explanation at this point anyway. I just don't know why it would be gem themed if it's an alien from another planet. Maybe there are other planets on which gems branched out into organic life, kind of the way Rose did, but they were gems at an earlier stage in their development, so that life became animalistic. I don't know, there might be a theory there. I'll think on it and see what comes of it. Got a couple people on here wanting to beta read my book. Yeah, if any of you guys who want to do that see this, just hit me up and let me know. I'll see if I can get you a copy of it that you can beta read for me. Oh, listen to that. My heart's going nuts now because of the anxiety. Yeah, that's great. I've got a question here. If I could, how would I change SU that I might save for the end of this video? I know I've answered it other places, but I have no problem answering that again because my exact answer changes a lot. So I might save that one for later on in the video. But anyway, all that said, we're going to move on now to actual questions. I'm going to address a couple of questions that were put in the comment section of that last Q&A video first. First of all, Sonaxis, is that how you pronounce that? Asks, do I think the movie will be canon? Because I guess they have a feeling that it won't. I guarantee that it absolutely will be. It's going to be a part of the show, aired on television, and as far as we know, that will always be first stage canon, regardless of what form it specifically takes. And considering that they waited until this point in the series to start putting it together, and they're not airing any more episodes until it's out, even though, as far as I know, at least some of the episodes for next season are finished already, or close enough to being finished that they could get them ready and out before the air date of the movie. All of that suggests that the movie is intended to be part of the actual story and is intended to be placed where they're placing it in the story. It might even set up the next arc of the series, like the next overarching storyline of the series. And if that's the case, then absolutely it would have to be canon. But yeah, I agree with your sentiment that I certainly hope it is one way or the other. This isn't exactly a question, but Ether 101 Prime mentioned that bathing in Rose's fountain might fix Pink Pearl's eye. And that's possible, certainly. I mean, we did see that Steven Spit, which is basically the same thing, does something to fix the information on a corrupted gemstone. So, considering that the injury seems to have been caused by corrupted information on Pink Pearl's gemstone, it's possible that something similar to that could repair that damage. I'd be really interested to see that, though, because that would really expand the scope of Steven's powers. Like, at this point, we could spin that because it was a diamond ability which caused corruption, a diamond ability can in part way counter corruption, even if it isn't specifically geared towards fixing that kind of damage normally. But if we see that the fountain, therefore Rose's tears, and therefore Steven Spit can fix this sort of information damage too, that'd just be super interesting. I'd like to see that happen, if it's a thing. I got a few questions here from Matthew Hingston that I'm going to cover before I head over to the Discord and take some questions there. First question is, what made Pink Diamond so short? And I think the answer to that is super simple. It hasn't been confirmed in the series yet in so many words or anything, but I think it's pretty obviously that she's a pink diamond and not either a blue diamond, a yellow diamond, or a white diamond. I get into this argument more often than I like to with people, but I am 100% sure that each of the 4 diamonds is intended to be a different kind of gem. They have different body types, they have different voices, they have different designs, different names, different colors, and they consist of 3 completely different size classes. Even blue and yellow aren't exactly the same size either, at least not according to some of the scenes that we see them standing next to each other. So I think we have enough data at this point to conclude that different kinds of diamonds, with some exceptions, just are different sizes from one another, and blue and yellow just happen to be one of those exceptions. Like, if diamonds are all supposed to be the same size, then either blue and yellow are defective, alongside pink, who's, I guess, even more defective than they are, or else pink is defective and white is defective, because being larger than you're supposed to be would still be a defect. And, like, if they were defective, if blue, yellow, and pink were defective, they wouldn't be allowed out in public like we know now that they were in gem history. Like, especially not pink. If she is that much smaller than everybody else and that's a defect, that's going to be a super noticeable defect. She's not going to be allowed to put on parties for the high class. That's just going to cause people to question the perfection of the diamonds, the supposed perfection of the diamonds, if there's a diamond running around who is so different than the others when she's not supposed to be. So I think at this point we have to assume that Pink Diamond's size is her intended size, that that's the size that she's supposed to be. The next question is, would Steven die if he's way too far away from his gem? Like if he got separated from his gem and couldn't get back to it in time. Yeah, I think so. I think considering how much weaker he got so soon after it was removed, I think we can assume that that would happen. Maybe medical intervention would keep him from dying, and he'd eventually acclimate to it, kind of like how you eventually acclimate to losing a kidney or something. But I do think that left entirely on his own, yeah, the absence of his gem would kill him. And finally, would fusions that Steven makes with the other gems have the same weapons as Rose/Pink Diamond? That's a more complicated one, since a weapon is, at the end of the day, reflective of a character's personality. But gem weapons are still information-based, just like everything about gems are. So maybe there's only so many ways you can combine gem weapons together. But if there's not, if you could just literally do whatever you want with them, since technically you should be able to anyway, since gems have the ability to shapeshift and the weapons are hard light just like the gems are, then I think we can assume at this point that gem weapons can fuse into whatever you want them to. And so I think that a gems specific fusion weapon, a fusion gem specific fusion weapon, would reflect the personality of the fusion just like any other gem weapon would, and therefore Steven's weapons would be different than Rose's weapons when he is part of a fusion, if that makes sense. Like, this one's definitely a stretch. I'm definitely guessing in a lot of stuff here, but I do think that that's the most likely outcome here. Moving on to the Discord, if I'm not mistaken, I left off with Matthew's question regarding if the corrupted gems can still summon their weapons. And if I'm not mistaken, that's actually the same Matthew whose question I just answered. I think this was his question on that previous video. So hello again, Matthew. Seeing as that's where I left off, now somebody asked for help with a gem character and I completely missed it. I'll deal with that later. Moving on, let's look at Suhexia's question. Do I think that the failed attempt to destroy gems on Earth made White Diamond realize more so that she's not perfect, since that diamond attack made monsters instead of wiping clear the compromised colony? No, I don't, because I do think that the absence of Pink Diamond as part of the attack is what caused that to happen, and not some imperfection in White Diamond. And I think she would be smart enough to realize that that's the case, assuming that it actually is. Darkness Void mentioned something about how we still haven't gotten an explanation for Rose rotating her gem when she became Rose and then eventually became Rose full-time, asking if I think we'll ever get a straight answer to that one. Nope, don't think we're gonna, and I'm still super salty about it. Darkness Void also suggests that the villain of the Steven Universe movie is going to involve the geode, and whatever is in Rose's chest will be able to stop it. That would certainly be a way to bring the geode back into things and then tie up that mystery once and for all, but I think that's a little too convenient. Regarding the little question you asked, I mean, probably not. We probably won't see the geode again except in like cameo type stuff. Again, unfortunately, because I think there's a mystery there that hasn't been solved yet that I want an answer to, but I don't think they have any intention of answering it. I think they just want to leave it mysterious and ambiguous, which is also fine. Besides, as Nabrix said, it is holding nicely. Is this pronounced Gleaming Gladiolus? I'm not really sure. But anyway, yes, thank you for finally joining the Discord server. Any of you who haven't yet, should probably get your butts over there pretty soon. It's a moderate amount of fun. But yeah, we're happy to have you. Gleaming Gladiolus asks what I think the deal is with that fusion statue that we see at the start of Off Colors. Mentions it being a cross-gem fusion. I don't think it is. I think it's the same gem fusion. I think somebody might have actually pointed it out further down the page. But if you look at it, it looks like its gemstones are the same kind of gemstone. But yeah, I think it's interesting that it's there, though, since fusion is supposed to just be a weapon, right? So if it wasn't at some point more than that, why would they be venerating a fusion, even a same gem fusion, by putting up a statue of it? That's just odd, isn't it? And it's not as if we haven't seen cross-gem fusion statues elsewhere. The, what was it, the moon tower thing from Cheeseburger Backpack, I can't even remember. The Moon Spire, it was called the Moon Spire, I think. I'm pretty sure. That thing had a ton of, like, multi-armed fusion statues at it that were clearly meant to be cross-gem fusions, because it's not as if humans built this thing. Gems built it. There's no reason for them to build multi-armed statues there unless they're meant to be the multi-armed statues of gems, and only cross-gem fusion gems have extra limbs like that. And it doesn't make sense there or on Homeworld for them to put up statues of rebels, right? That's goofy. That's not a thing that would happen. So it only makes sense if these are gems who were accepted by Homeworld, but that would suggest that either cross-gem fusions were actually accepted as recently as when the Moonspire was built, and that at some point, almost immediately afterwards, they became taboo, or there's just a tradition of venerating certain gems that have extra limbs, and I guess the population at large doesn't realize that that means that they're cross-gem fusions. I don't know, it's super weird, and I've talked about it before, how those statues we're probably supposed to ignore them at this point, even though we saw one of them again as recently as that episode where Captain Dewey's first mate was exploring all the gem sites. But it's still something that I'd really like to get an explanation for at some point. If there was supposed to be a different direction for the show at some point, which would have explained why those statues were there, I'd like to know what that was, because it seems super interesting. And probably the last one of the day, Fit Zenith asks, I'm going to read this whole thing out instead of trying to summarize parts of it like I've been doing the whole video. So far as I can tell, Future Vision is the only power in the show that can be given to other people to use outside of fusion. Do you think that Future Vision is the only power like this? And if so, why/how? If not, how far do you think it goes, and what do you think the implications would be for the show? Both from a literally and metaphorical symbolic standpoint. For me, I think it would open up a number of creative possibilities, but I think it also might raise more questions than answers. I agree with that last sentiment. I think if gem powers could be shared pretty freely, that would open up a ton of story possibilities. And I do like what you kind of hinted here, that because it's a fusion ability is why it can be shared like that, since technically fusions are already sharing their abilities between gems anyway. But I also think it might definitely raise more questions than answers. In fact, it's already raised this one question just in the form that we've seen it in the show, and this is a question that I ask myself a lot too, because it doesn't make sense that Future Vision would be the only power that can be transferred like this at all. Especially, I would imagine other, like, mental-based, psychic-based powers would be transferable like this too. And technically, even like Lapis's ability to control water is a kind of telekinesis, so shouldn't she be able to transfer that too? Based on the logic of this? I don't know, it's just so odd. I can't imagine logistically that it's the only ability like this. Let me put it that way. But I don't think they're ever going to confirm that another power can be transferred like this again, because I think it would open up a can of worms that they don't want to have to worry about closing. Unfortunately, because that would be super cool if it was an actual thing. But yeah, that's going to be it for today, as I said a minute ago. I may actually talk about that last one in a little bit more detail somewhere else once I've gotten my thoughts together on it, because like I said, it's definitely interesting, and it's definitely one that I ask myself about a lot. I want to go back through the show and see if there's any possible examples of other abilities being transferable like this, before saying anything else. As with all of these, please ask me any questions that you might have, any theory questions you might have, not even just limited to Steven Universe. either in the comment section of this video or over on my Discord in the Q&A section, because I really have a lot of fun doing these. And while I do have some ideas for additional content to branch out into, putting some of that together is going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to need Q&A material going forward. I also have a Q&A Gmail account that I completely forgot existed until literally right now, and on which I probably have a whole lot of questions that I haven't answered yet. It's ajqna@gmail.com, I believe, if that's not the case. Either way, I'll try to remember to link it in the description. But yeah, I really enjoy doing these. I really feel like I'm connecting more with the community that I've built by doing this, and I'm not really super good at doing that otherwise. So this is a nice treat for me, and hopefully for you guys too. Either way, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.